So again, you can't push the rope, and it has to do with teaching. And teaching is not just putting back forth information. What it is it is leading students to where we need them to go. And so often we want to push students, especially nursing students. I'm a nursing educator in Gillette, Wyoming. Used to be in the ER and OR. But when we're teaching, whether it's in a patient setting, whether it's in a school setting, whatever it is we have to meet the students where they're at. And we all have those students that we just can't get through to, and those patients, no matter how we try, it's just very difficult. We call them difficult students. But I teach in the college level, and once students come to school to any kind of medical profession, we are dealing with adult learners. And adult learners come to us with their own rules. They know how they want to learn. They each have a different background. They come from different places. Their lifestyles are totally different. And so how do we make a cohesive classroom out of that hodgepodge? Well, first we have to start by defining ourselves as educators. And as an educator, we can be a dry, boring teacher who talks about what they know as if the student should have a clue. And that the student then doesn't learn anything because all we're doing is spouting knowledge. We're not meeting them where they're at. So there's little learning that takes place when we do that. And just as all teachers aren't cookie cutters of each other, neither are students, they're individuals. We have another end of the spectrum in teaching where we just take the student, we move them from where they are now to where they still are because we're trying to make them comfortable. But they don't really learn anything this way. It encourages them because they don't ever feel stupid, but they don't get any new information. Younger kids like that, but with adult learners, that style just isn't going to work. So as an instructor in the medical profession, we need to know our audience. We need to start where they are. We need to be able to apply what they know as well as what we know to their learning. So we have different types of students. So you've got the nice student, the difficult student, and the wimp. We all like the nice students because the nice students, they do what you ask them to do. When you say, hey, can you turn your assignment in by 5 p.m.? They'll say, sure. And so they do. And so they're very nice to have. But then you have the difficult students, and they always want to say why or what for. They're more likely to argue a point, but they really just want to know what's in it for me. So when your students ask you these questions, we shouldn't get defensive, but we should explain ourselves. We should try to get them on our team. We need to let them know why we want them to turn their assignment in by 5 p.m. We want them to do that because we want them on the team. So we tell them, okay, you have one assignment to do. I have 32 students. I have to grade 32 papers. And if I'm going to get those papers back to you in a timely manner, then I need you to turn them in by 5 p.m. so that I have time to do that so that you can have them to study for the test. Now you've got them on your team. Now they're on the same page as you are. And so you'll get your assignments in by 5 p.m. Then you have the wimp. Now the wimp sounds like they could probably be a really nice student to have, right? Because they're not going to be challenging. But another name for wimp is that backstabbers. They hide behind other people. They sit in the back of a classroom or against a wall. They like making snide comments to who they're sitting next to. And so they just get them to repeat what they said, or even just putting on that pressure. It's going to keep them from being difficult in the future because they've just lost credibility with the person that they were confiding in. So we really want them to know that we understand what they're doing and that it's not appropriate. Now, as educators, we treat people as ladies and gentlemen. And it's not because they are ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you ever taught a group of young nurses or young paramedics, but they get a little rowdy sometimes. They're type A personalities, and it's kind of hard to keep their attention. But we treat them as nurses, ladies and gentlemen, because we are a lady and gentleman. We treat them with respect. All students want to be treated with dignity and respect. So one of the ways to do this is when you get that difficult students and they insult you or they attack you, just laugh it off. Show that it has no meaning, no sting. If you fight back and resist, you give it life and you give it credibility. If you defend yourself, you invite a counterattack. If any of you have children living in your home, you always have one that picks on the other. And so what advice do you give? You say, well, just ignore him or her. They're only doing it because they know it gets a rise out of you. So we have to look at it the same way. It's what we're doing. Is our comeback going to be something that gets a rise out of them, or can we get them to back off just because we don't react? So the second type of students, all students want to be asked rather than told to do something. To ask someone to do something, it's a sign of respect. Now, as an instructor, as a teacher, as a nurse, as a doctor, you have the authority to tell people to just do what you want them to do. You can tell them, hey, sit down. Or you can say, hey, would you please sit down? They're probably going to sit down either way, but you're going to have more respect and more camaraderie with them if you ask them rather than tell them, because it makes them feel like they have a choice. They don't really have a choice. They need to do what you ask them to do, but it makes them feel like they have a choice. So number 3, all students want to be informed as to why they're being asked to do something, why they're being ordered to do something. That's another sign of respect when you tell people why. And it'll calm down about 70% of your difficult people. Not telling people why is a sign of disrespect. It lowers their morale. Same effect in our home, in our families, in our organizations. When we want voluntary compliance, whether it's from our children or whether it's from our fellow coworkers or whether it's from anybody, a patient, a student, we need to be very clear and let them know why we're asking them to do what we've asked them to do and why it's good for everyone. So number 4, all students want to be given options rather than threats. So again, you're giving them a choice. Instead of threatening them, threats are disrespectful and they put people on edge. They get their hackles up. They just want to put it on the fight. It's kind of like with a 2-year-old. They come at you and you say, why? And finally you get to a point where you say, because I said so, because you're exasperated. And you shouldn't tell a student or a coworker or anybody that you have to do it because those are the rules or because I said so. Rules are there to put things in context, but if you explain why those rules are there, you'll get much better feedback, much better results. And number 5, all students want a second chance when they make a mistake. They want a chance to make things right. They're human. They make mistakes. And we all do that. We all act in ways that we wish we hadn't. We say things that we wish we hadn't said. So whenever it's appropriate, we want to give students a second chance to make it right. Now, that doesn't mean they get to take the test until they pass it. But what it means is that we give them another opportunity with maybe a different assignment to show that they know the material. So when we do this is called empathy. Now, empathy isn't sympathy, because empathy means to see things through the eyes of the other. And teachers and students, they're coming at education from different standpoints. They have different perspectives. So if we can get the student to understand where we're coming from and we can understand where they're coming from, we're going to have a lot better results with our students. So one thing about empathy is that empathy absorbs tension. So tension can be caused by a divorce, a new job, new friends, unsuccessful students. So what we want to do is we want to seek understanding. We need to ask them, hey, let me just repeat this because I'm just to be sure that I heard what you said. Sometimes when someone's yelling and screaming and you just ask for understanding from them and just tell them you're having a hard time, it calms them down because they know that you're listening. They know that you really care, and that's what they feel. If you're unsure about what they said, say, let me just tell you what I'm hearing from you, so that we can be sure that we're on the same page. Do I understand what your point is? So actually, you're looking to walk a few steps in the other person's shoes. Now, the shoes probably aren't going to fit well because you guys have different styles and you're probably different sizes. But if you do that, it helps them to understand that you understand, and that it helps us to think like they think, that we can speak with their perspective in mind. So this gives us that immediate rapport. And that's the only way we can have real understanding, when we try to see things through their eyes. So there is behavior. You have certain types of behavior that we have and that we expect from students. We have above the line behavior, which is very intentional. We want to think before we act. We want them to think before they act. It's thoughtful. It is the road less traveled. The below the line behavior is impulsive. It's resistance. It's living in the past. It's all about blaming, complaining, and defending yourself. I was at a gas station early this morning, and there was a pickup that had a couple of kids in it. They were all teenagers, maybe early 20s. And they were swearing and cussing and complaining that their boss didn't care for them and that they got no respect from their employer. And all they could do is complain and swear. And I thought, well, that's impulsive behavior. I really wanted to just walk over there and I wanted to say, hey, if you're so miserable in your employment, you should just quit. Find something that you like to do. And sometimes that's the direction people need to take, because they are impulsive, because they are going a direction that's not healthy. It's not healthy for them. It's unhealthy for the company that they work with. So we always want to encourage above the line behavior. So how do we do that? How do we get people to understand that? So this is a equation, E plus R equals O. E is the event. It's what life throws at us. We have events in our lives every day. R is the response. How are we going to respond to that thing that happened? And outcome is the end result. So an example would be you're driving in traffic and you get cut off. That's the event. So you have a choice here. You can get mad, flip them off and curse, or you can relax and be thankful that you noticed that before they hit you and you didn't get hit and you're not going to have a high deductible. Response one leaves you frustrated and angry. It probably ruins your whole day, because you go into work or you go home and you start complaining about this person that cut you off in traffic and what a jerk they were. So you've allowed them to ruin your day. But response two leaves you feeling happy and alive and just grateful that your car's still in one piece. So the events in our teaching lives come to us by way of our students. They don't show up to class. They come late. They don't turn their assignments in on time, and they're disruptive in class. Now, as instructors, especially in adult learners, we want to teach them how to be better adults. We want to teach them above the line behavior. But we also have to understand that they have a choice. And if they make bad choices, they come late to class, they don't show up to class, that's going to hurt them, because it's going to affect their grade, it's going to affect their learning. Now, we need to try to explain to them the benefit of being in class and participating, but we can't force them to do it. So now our response to the things these students do, it really makes a difference in how satisfied we are with our job. Or are we going to go home frustrated and angry every day because all the students didn't do what we said? When you have a disruptive student, instead of just, kind of blow it off in class, but talk to the student later. Have them come into your office so that you can talk about what happened and what went on, and how can you fix that problem? How can we get them to come to school on time? How can we get them to attend class? Because when you talk to them, you find out what's going on in their life. And sometimes life choices aren't conducive to school. And sometimes the things that are happening in students' lives aren't good enough, or they're more important than what they need to do at school. And so maybe this isn't the right time for them to be in school. We have to help them to make those decisions. So how do we do that? Well, there's several responses here. So Response one, which I think we should always do in this order, is to press pause. Take a minute to consider the options, because it helps us avoid doing something stupid or foolish. It focuses on you acting with purpose to accomplish your goals. So when you're confronted with an event that immediately makes you angry or makes you feel bad, just say, okay, what does this situation require of me? Will my decision help me reach my goals, or my student meet their goals, or will it push us further away from them? So pressing pause is not a natural response. I mean, a natural response is if someone hits you, you hit them back. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you get mad. If someone yells at you, you yell back. So pressing pause is not natural, but it is a skill that needs to be developed and worked on. So, and we are born with that innate response. When a baby's hungry, they're going to cry. You got a 2-month-old baby and mom's had a really rough day, so the kid wakes up 3 a.m. and wants to eat. They don't lay there and think, oh, let's see, mom had a really rough day and I could probably wait a couple hours before I eat. I really don't need to eat right now. I think I'll just let her sleep a little bit. They don't do that. And that's how we're born. Those are the instincts we're born with. Everything else we have to learn. And pressing pause is the first step. So response number 2, we need to get our mind right. Well, what does that mean? How do you get our mind right? Well, you have to focus on 2 things. Getting our mind right is what we're focusing on and how we talk to ourselves. Now, talking to ourselves, that seems like that's kind of weird, but what is our mind telling us? Is it telling us to do something negative? Is it, or destructive? Is it telling us to do something positive? It's a constant battle. When events hit us, we have that choice every time. And it's in our mind that greatest struggle takes place. The question is, can we pause and come up with a positive response? So elite performers win in their minds before they even step into a situation. We can have an irritated mindset, and that comes from a negative mindset. It comes from one of laziness, and it's resistant to productive discomfort that real growth requires. We don't grow if we're not uncomfortable. Everything's comfortable, we never move, we never grow. So self-talk, if you have an irritated mindset, would be, why are we even doing this? When you have a baby who's learning how to walk, they don't have an irritated mindset. They fall down, they get up, they fall down, they get up. They don't sit down the first time they fall down and say, man, this is too hard, it hurts. The last type of mindset is a purposeful mindset. This is where you get that above the line thinking, and it causes some discomfort. So response number 3, it's not just, there we go. We want to step up. We want to do the right thing. We want to make sure that our behavior is above the line and that we understand the situation, because as instructors, we are required to understand the situation, not the student so much. We have to make it clear about what's required of us or what's required of you. So your response is most important when the event is most difficult. We have to adjust and adapt. We have the ability to be flexible and responsive. Things change. People are uncomfortable with change. Life gets increasingly difficult if we cannot accept change. A child learns change from crawling to walking to running. Maybe not necessarily that order, but it gets difficult and we have to learn to adapt. If something's not working, we need to change it. We can't blame the event. We have to choose a better response. We should not slip back into that blame, complain, defend ourselves. All right, response number 5, we want to make a difference. You don't get to be the person you want to be, you get to be the person that you build. We have to work hard to get that above the line behavior. When you're a part of a team, you have to build that team. What kind of a teammate are you? Are you one that builds a team up? Do you encourage the team? Are you the one that drags them down? You're not pulling your own weight. Someone always have to do your job for you. So the way that we manage our events reflects on our team. You'll not have a better team than you are a team member. So we've got to be sure that we are a good team, and that's part of our response with our faculty and with our fellow students and with our own students. Now, a certain amount of talent is inborn, but greatness is a choice. We have to take the talents that we have and we have to build on them and make it a skill. And we have to choose to be the best that we can be so we can be the best teacher. We have to make that choice. And that comes with our level of commitment. Do we choose to do the right thing with our outcomes? Do we choose to have the right response? We need to work on a skill every day. Those that are bringing us down, those that are making us not comfortable with working well with other people. So exceptional performance is a result of an uncommon level of focus and discipline. And that's the only way that we can pursue success. An athlete does not become an athlete or does not become great without putting in the time and the effort that's needed. They also have to be coachable, and we have to be coachable. We have to train with that above the line behavior to be purposeful. We want to have intent. Complacency is our enemies, and we have to grow beyond our talent. That's the only way that we can grow the medical industry. We have to know what we're teaching. We have to be purposeful in guiding the people that we teach and instruct to become the people that they need to be, to grow into the field that we need, because the medical field is a field that we can't have slackers in. We need people who react with purpose. We need people that have a focus. We need people that are making that choice to make a difference in the medical profession. So the outcome is up to us. It depends on our response, on what we teach our students. We can't let the events that happen to us control us. We need to control the event. Anytime that we get angry or handle a situation poorly, we're giving the other people control. And we don't want to give them control. We want to maintain control ourselves. So you're the only one in the way from achieving your greatest desired outcomes. We need to lead our students. We can't push them. We need to have active listening. We need to develop that skill. We have to be open, unbiased. We have to hear literally, not what we think they're saying, but what they're really saying. We need to interpret the data, and then we need to act. We need to choose the outcome. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "To be yourself in a world that's constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." So our first reaction to people and circumstances tell us who we really are. When someone cuts you off in traffic, what's your first response? What's going to be your first reaction to the people and places you encounter today? Which ones, which events, which people do we need to do a makeover with? Which ones do we need to practice above the line behavior on? And so here's my references, and that's about all I have right now. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and ask for any questions.